Hello everyone, welcome back to another session of Pestle analysis. In this video, we are going to start with the economics factors. More specifically, we are going to talk about financial crisis. The main reason of talking the financial crisis is because this is one of the most influential economic factors in the world. Furthermore, unfortunately, this might also be something that students need to face in a very near future. Before we start discussing financial crisis into detail, I would like you to ask a very simple question about how much do you think is the housing prices 50 years ago? Now, you don't need to send me the answer by email, but you can just have the answer inside your head and we will check later on, okay? So how many of you think 50 years ago the housing prices is below £10,000? And how many of you think that housing prices 50 years ago is somewhere between 10,000 to 25,000 pounds? Anything that is 25,000 to 50,000 pounds? 50,000 to 100,000 pounds? Or any student think that 50 years ago it will be more than 100,000 pounds? Let's have a look at the answer. 50 years ago, if we are looking at a house that is around 50 to 60 square meter, then it is very possible that we are able to buy it either around or even below 10,000 pounds, as you can see from the graph. Nowadays, if we are going to buy a house, it will be very easily cost more than 200,000 pounds. Okay, so what really happened to the 2008 financial crisis? What is the cause? Now, normally when we are going to buy a house, there is usually 10 to 30% of the front payment. And assuming that, let's just say here, a 50 to 60 square meter house in Guildford will cost around 300,000. So normally people will have to put 30 to, let's just say, around 90,000 of front payment before they can start mortgaging the house. 20 years ago, there is some idea from the Wall Street. They are giving some lower income group the opportunity to buy the house without even the needs of the front payment. And that caused a sharp increase in the prices and the demand of the housing. However, this kind of the sharp increase is not sustainable. As prices getting higher and higher, the massive inflation causes a real damage to the society. So what happened in reality is that as the prices getting higher and higher, it is more difficult for the company to hire more people. In this case, they hire less people, more people lose their job, they give up their home, and the bank take back the home, they have to sell cheaply into the price for the economy, and that caused a sharp decrease in the price of housing, and that is the 2008 housing crisis. Now, as you can see from the graph, from 2007 to 2011, there is around 55% decrease in the house prices, which means it's around half of the price. And then recently, after 2012, there is a recovery and the housing prices increase again. One of the main reasons is because they have a new idea now of lending the money to the students. The students who already get a student's loan from the university, they will already have a hard time to pay back their loans. It will take on average around 30 to 40 years old before they can pay back all of their university loans. However, the new idea from the hedge fund is that they are going to lend money to these students so that these students can buy houses as well. Once again, and because of this increase in demand, prices of the housing increase once again. But as we can see from this graph, from 2017, which is the peak, to around recent years, there is only around 12% difference. Therefore, we always know that it is not going to be sustainable again, and we will see the crash very soon, especially right now we have the coronavirus, and again, a lot of the people will lose the job. The history is going to repeat very soon. If we look at the FTSE 100, which is composed of the top 100 companies here in UK, you will see that during 2007, the price of the index is around 7,000. And when it comes to around February 2009, the price is around 3,800 left. So even the top 100 companies in UK, the prices of the stocks decreased by half. And I have to emphasize once again, these are the top 100 companies here in UK. So if the top 100 companies in UK, they lost half of their value, can you imagine how many companies went bankrupt during those years? Now, 3 to 5 minutes ago, we mentioned that during year 2000, there is a sharp increase in the housing prices. So during those times, the Wall Street actually earned a lot of money from selling this kind of the mortgages to the people. Now, before the financial crisis, the bank actually has a big increase in the interest rate from 1% to 6%. The main idea is that the bank can borrow the money from the lenders and then they can lend the money to the other people who want to buy or build houses at the higher interest rates. However, after the financial crisis, one in approximately 6 to 7 homes default on the payment of their mortgage. Also need to mention is that before the financial crisis, the US GDP accounts the mortgage for around 45% in 1990s. However, by 2008 and also before the financial crisis, the mortgages actually accounts for the whole GDP of the US for around 73%. Now again, before the financial crisis, an average American people, they already have a debt of 127% of their disposable income, which means is that before the financial crisis, they already have a debt more than what they can get from the salary. What is worse is that after the financial crisis, the debt of the individual increased from an average of 127% to 290%, which is almost triple of their income. Now imagine during the financial crisis, approximately 6 million Americans lost their homes. And if you can remember, around 5 minutes ago, we see the pricing of the houses drop by around 30 to 50% in 2008. And those mortgages, they have a name, they call it MBS and CDS. It's kind of become a worthless piece of paper. The main reason is because those are like a contract or promises that nobody wants to keep. Now, is a group of people that is mainly responsible for this financial crisis, and they are the rating agency, the Moody, the Fitch, and the S&P. What happened is that these were three main rating agencies. They this kind of mortgage investment, CDS, MBS, and investment banks such as Lehman Brothers, which went bankrupt at that time, they ranked them as a AAA, which means a safe investment. Now, normally in reality, only the companies such as the Microsoft, the Google, or the Amazon has the ranking of AAA. Companies like Tesla or Boeing, they only have a ranking like A to AA. Therefore, when the investors see this AAA ranking, they thought that the companies and the investment is as safe as the Microsoft, is as safe as Amazon and Google. However, in reality, it's not. It's probably a single B or double B rating at most. One of the main reasons why this of the mortgages investment and the investment banks such as Lehman Brothers, which went bankrupt at that time, can get a rating of AAA instead of B rating is because these rating agencies are paid by the company instead of paid by the investors. In crisis, then what it should means that it is only affecting the houses, is it correct? Well, the answer is no. Even though it is called the housing crisis, however, it affects 10% of the unemployment rate in US. And again, even though it starts from US Wall Street, it does not only affect the US, it affects 15% of the unemployment rate in UK, 21% unemployment rate in Spain, and 30% unemployment rate in Greece. And there is a lot more effects in Asian countries as well. It does not only cause an increase in the unemployment rate. In a more extreme scenario, it even caused the Iceland and the Ireland to go bankrupt. Furthermore, why the UK decided to leave the European Union, one of the mainly big reason is because of this financial crisis as well. During those financial crises, Greece, Portugal, and Spain, they have a lot of debt. And those debts, it will be extremely difficult for these three countries to pay them back. Time during those periods, a lot of the company went bankrupt. And from our studies in business, we know that if a company is a limited company, when they go bankrupt, they actually do not need to pay back all of their debts. And in this case, when they do not pay back their debts, the banks and the other companies also have a very difficult time to pay back their debts as well. In order to save the economy and in order to save the country, the US government is forced to print money. How much money, you ask? They forced to print 2 trillion amount of money. And at the same time, UK also need to print 2 trillion amount of pounds. And then the amount of the pounds that the government print during the financial crisis is approximately 120%, which is more than what the country can produce in a year. Okay, so let's sidetrack a little bit. If you are a student who loves to see movies, I bet you have seen a lot of times $1 million. How much $1 million looks like, because you will see from the movies they usually put $1 million in a suitcase. Now I would like to ask you two interesting questions. Have you ever seen 1 billion US dollars. And more interestingly, have you ever seen 1 trillion US dollars? Because it's very easy for us to say, oh, this person has 1 billion, this company has 1 billion, this country has 1 trillion, but how much really 1 billion US dollar looks like and how much really 1 trillion US dollars looks like? Especially where we are always talking about Bill Gates is a billionaire, Warren Buffett is a billionaire, Mark Zuckerberg is a billionaire. How much do they actually have? Okay, so if we pile up $1 million, it's actually pretty decent. It looks like it's around the height of a chair. And if we pile up 1 billion US dollar, it will be already be higher than the tallest building in the world. So what about 1 trillion US dollars? When we pile up 1 trillion US dollars, that is around 2.5 times the distance between the Earth and the International Space Station. And if you remember 2 minutes ago, we mentioned that during the financial crisis, US government and UK government printed 2 trillion amount of money, which means it's already 5 times the distance between Earth to International Space Station. Okay, so let's get back to the main topic. Hopefully by now you were able to understand how much is 1 billion US dollars and how much is 1 trillion US dollars. And after the government print this much of money, did the economy recover? The answer is no. Unfortunately, even till today, our economy still had not recovered to the peak period of 2008. Okay, Jeff, if you talk about the financial crisis in 2008, then that means that is the most serious financial crisis that we can face, isn't it? Well, the answer is no. Approximately 3 weeks ago, the Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and the SP 500, they dropped by 9% in one single day. And that is one of the worst drops in the 21st century. Once again, when we are talking about the Nasdaq, when we are talking about the SP 500, these are the top companies in the world. In these 120 years, this 9%, almost 10% drop ranks the fourth largest single day drop in the history since 1987. If you can see from the graph, these drops are even worse than the financial crisis in 2008 and even worse than the 9/11 terrorist attack in 2001. And unfortunately, as you can observe, this is not the end. This is more like just the beginning. Nonetheless, the student does not need to panic. If we look at the bright side, the financial crisis is actually like a Christmas, where everything is at discount. So basically, the financial crisis generally get rid of the lower skilled employees, and it always creates a vacancy for higher skilled employees. So as long as the student is skillful, you will be popular no matter where you go. Right now, students are able to see more clearly how detrimental is the financial crisis. Now, financial crisis is not something that we can avoid. Financial crisis generally happens every 10 years. Last time we have it in 2000, the next one is 2008, and the next one is like the 2020. So in a very high scenario, in the 2030, 2040, 2050, we will be having a financial crisis every 10 years. Now, what students need to do instead of avoiding it, instead of escaping from it, is the students will need to prepare from it. Financial crisis in a way is like a seasonal workout, which happens only once every 10 years. And then after this seasonal workout, generally, once the student is prepared, basically it makes the student stronger. For a deeper understanding of the financial crisis, I would like to ask the student to make a quick research about how to prepare for a financial crisis. And as usual, the student will be required to present it in a PowerPoint format and kindly submit it into the Study Smart as it will count at your attendance. Once again, thank you so much for learning this lesson with me, and I will see you all in the next video.